Hi, I'm Julie from Spellbound, and today I'm going to show you how to make this lovely constellation star decoration. As you can see, it's made in 3 dimensions. It's got 12 points and it's really sparkly. Now this is a project from Festive Beading 2, which is the second festive beading book we did in our series of 4. And it's also available as a kit to make 3 of these stars. But the ingredients are very simple. You might already have them at home. I hope you enjoy making it. I'm going to be making a shining silver star, so I've chosen seed beads and bugles in silver-lined crystal. I've got 3 sizes of seed beads here. I have size 6, size 8 and size 10. And I've got some size 3 bugles. Now size 3 bugles are between 7 and 8 millimeters long. I've also got some wire. I'm using 0.4 millimeter beading wire. Now it's a soft temper, so I can smooth it easily and I can weave with it. So it's going to be nice and easy to work with. I'm starting off with 25 centimeters. But in total you're going to need about 2 meters to complete your star. Now at the centre of our 12-pointed star is a little cube of 12 of our size 6 seed beads. So I'm going to start by counting out 12 of these size 6 seed beads. Now we're going to do a technique called crossover weaving, which means that in some instances we're going to cross the wire to make an X shape through 1 or more beads. Now to begin, I'm going to put 3 of our seed beads into the middle of the wire. I'm going to put a 4th bead on and I'm going to hold it about 3 centimeters from the end of the wire. I'm going to cross the other side in the opposite direction. So that's our crossover weave. I'm now going to gently pull on each side a little bit at a time, so I keep these beads in the middle because otherwise they want to dance to one end of the wire. Keep on going until I pull that single bead up against the other 3. And as you can see, that's made a little square. So that's the first side of our cube. I'm going to make a square alongside that one. So I put 1 seed bead onto each side and let those run down to the middle. And then I'm going to do the crossover weave through 1 seed bead. As I pull that down, you'll see those are the 2 single ones I put on, and with our crossover bead that comes up and makes the last side of the square. So we've got 2 squares sharing that bead in the middle as a common side. I'm going to make a 3rd square, so it's 1 seed bead onto each end and a crossover bead. So there's our crossover. And now we've got 3 squares in a row. Now our 4th square is going to join the 3rd square to the 1st square. So I'm going to put 1 seed bead onto each side and I'm going to slightly curve that strip of beading like that so that I can access my crossover bead, and my crossover bead is this one here, the one at the far end of the line of squares. So I'm going to go one way through with one end of the wire and the opposite way through with the other. So if I move the wires down like that, you can see there's the X shape. Those are our 2 beads we put on, and as I pull up it gets tighter and tighter and creates the cube. So we now have a little cube of 12 size 6 seed beads. Now I can move straight on to making our first spike on the star. Now, as I said, each spike is supported by one of the beads on this cube, and as you can see, I've ended up with one seed bead with one end of the wire coming out of one side and one out of the other, ready to make my first star spike or star point. Now, as we build out the points, we need to link each point to its neighbours. If we don't do that, then we'll end up with 12 individual points and we won't end up with a star, it'll just all flop downwards. So these joining points are very important, and we add them as we move away from the centre cube, so they're only a short distance out. So I'm going to establish a joining point or a link or a bridge so that I can join on my next point when I put that on. So I've got 3 size 8 seed beads going on first, then a size 6 bead, and then I'm going to put on one more size 8. So you can see there it's 3, 1 and 1. And I'm going to push those right down to the cube, that's really important. And I'm going to take the end of the wire and I'm going to pass it through that size 6 seed bead again. Now you can see it's going up towards the single bee bead. And as I pull through, I need to make sure everything's kept close to the cube. And that new single bee bead sits on the edge, and the holes are parallel in the size 6 and the size 8 bead. That's going to be our bridging bead, and that's going to allow me to join on the neighbouring points. I'm going to do that on the other side. 1, 2, 3. Size 8, 1 6 and 1 8. Bring them down right up against the cube again. Pass the wire back up through the size 6 and pull through, making sure everything's nice and tight against the previous beads. And there we go. I've got 2 ends and I've got a little bridging bead on each side. Now I'm going to start to develop the point outwards. So we're going to add a size 10 seed bead on each side, and then the thing that really extends the length, that's going to be a bugle bead on each side. And now I need to bring the work together to start to create the narrowness of the point. To do that, I'm going to bring both ends of the wire together and I'm going to pass them in the same direction through one size 8 seed bead. You see that? So both ends are going in the same direction rather than crossing over. And if I bring that down, you can see we've made a diamond shape. Now I want to extend the point further, so I'm going to do a little crossover weave section, so 1 size 8 on each side, and I'm going to cross over through a third bee bead. So you can see a single bee bead, a single bee bead, and cross over through a bee, or when I say bee bead I mean a size 8 seed bead. I tend to think of them as A, B, C because I've got them laid out like that. But when I pull that up nice and tight, you can see now we've got our diamond, and doing that crossover has made everything nice and firm. Right, let's extend it a little bit further by adding another couple of bugle beads. So it's 1 on each side. There we go. So the point is getting almost up to length now. So let's hold them in place by putting a crossover weave in. So it's a size 8 seed bead again. Crossover through one size 8 seed bead and pull it down. Right, so that's our point nearly finished. We just need to make a little sharpened end to it. So we're going to put on a size 8 seed bead onto each side, and then the final weave is a crossover through a size 10 seed bead. Now this is a bit tighter, which will help the wire to slip a little less, but also it'll give a nicer point to our work. It's a little bit more difficult to pull through because it's a smaller hole, but it goes through quite easily. You just need to pull a little bit firmer, and that will complete the bead sequence for your point. Now we can't leave it with two wire ends like this, so we're going to neaten and secure the wire. So to start off with, I'm going to weave the wire back down to the top of the bugle beads. So the wire from this side of the size 10 seed bead is going to come back down through the size 8 on the side, and we need to keep that wire loop really smooth as it draws down. That's it. And I'm going to pass it through that crossover weave size 8 seed bead. Then I'm going to do the same on the other side. So it's down through that size 8 seed bead. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then through that crossover size 8 seed bead again. Now it's going to be a bit of a tight fit, because it's already got 3 bits of wire through it. So you might have to have a little fiddle to get it through. Just straighten the end of the wire. Now if it won't fit, you can finish the wire off there, but as you can see, a little bit of poking around, I managed to get it through. There we go. Now I'm going to make the wire secure, and to do that I'm just going to wrap around the little bit of wire that I can see between that seed bead and the bugle. I'm going to do that on both sides. So it's through the hole. There we go. Now that wire end is really firm, and to clip it off neatly you can use wire cutters. Make sure you get the flat side right in against where you want it to cut, or much more neat and actually much easier is to break it off. Now you can break it off because the wire, when it becomes overworked, will become brittle and it will break. So we can force it to break where we want it to. Now I put my thumbnail against where I want it to finish, and then I bend backwards and forwards and round, pulling as I do so. It becomes brittle and it breaks, and there's no burr there to catch, so it's really neat. I'm going to do the same again here. So thumbnail against, backwards and forwards and round, pulling as you go. And there we are. That one snapped off too. No nasty burrs, and that's nice and neat. That's the first point completed on our star. I'm now going to bring in a new piece of wire, about 20 centimetres long, to start my next point. Now I'm going to go to the next size 6 seed bead around, so that's the one that supports the first point. So I'm going to go to this one here, and I'm going to pass the wire through so that that bead is approximately in the middle, or as close as you can, the middle of your length of wire. Now that looks a bit like this one did when we started, a length of wire sticking out either side of our size 6 seed bead. Now I'm going to start off my point in exactly the same way as I did the previous one, but this time I'm going to have to link to this adjacent bridging bead here. So let's do that first. I'm going to start with 3 size 8 seed beads and a size 6 seed bead. Now I'm not going to add the single B bead that we did, the single size 8 seed bead that we did before, because it's already in situ. That's our bridging bead. So I'm going to go down through the bridging bead and up through the size 6 seed bead. And that's joined our new point to our old point through that bridging bead. So I'll need 3 size 8, 1 size 6 and a single B bead, because this one hasn't got a point to join to, so I need to add the bridging bead on this side. So back through the size 6 seed bead, and we've started our point. So we're up to this position on the new point. So it's going to be completing it just the same as before. So it's a size 10 on each side, a bugle bead on each side, and the same direction through one of our size 8s. And that's that triangle, the diamond shape made. Now we do our little crossover weave section. So it's 1 size 8 on each side and cross over through a size 8. You can see we're up to this point here. Now it's a bugle bead on each side. And then we do the crossover through the size 8 seed bead. And now we just need to do this little top feature. So it's 1 size 8 on each side and cross over through a size 10. Now you can see that point matches this point and they're joined together at the bridging bead. Now they started off on adjacent size 6s at the bottom. So when I've finished off these 2 wire ends, I'm going to start the next point on the next size 6 bead around this face of the cube, and I will join to that bead there and create a bridging bead on this side. I'll do that and then I'll come back and show you how to complete the 4th side of the square. Right, I've added my 3rd point around this square face of the cube. As you can see, I've joined the 3rd spike to the 2nd spike using the bridging bead, and I've made sure I didn't forget to add the bridging bead on the other side of the spike. We've now got the 4th side of this square to do. I'm going to pass a 20 centimetre length of wire through the size 6 bead on the square, and then we need to make a link to both this side and this side, so to the first spike and the third spike. So it's going to be 3 size 8 seed beads and 1 size 6 seed bead on the first side of the new wire. Now we need to make the link to this bridging bead here. So it's down the size 8, that's the bridging bead, and up the size 6 seed bead. Okay, and you can see that's that little bridge made. It'll be easier to see on this side because it's easier for me to hold. So it's 3 size 8 seed beads, 1 size 6 seed bead, and we do the same again. We go down through the adjacent bridging bead and up through the new size 6 seed bead. And there we go. That's the last set of links made. And as I've made this last set, you can see it's pulled those points into more of a three-dimensional shape. I'm just going to quickly finish this and I'll be back to show you how to start the next set of points. Now I've completed that 4th point. And as you can see, because of the linking beads, it's lifted up the points into a cup shape, and it's actually a very rigid three-dimensional structure. Now the next set of points are going to be constructed attaching to the opposite square on the cube. So that's the face we've used. Flip it right over and we're going to use these 4 seed beads here as our base for the next 4 points. So we start exactly the same way, 20 to 25 centimeters of wire through one of those beads, and the first point we make has got to have 2 linking beads attached to it. Don't forget those. So it's 3 size 8, a size 6 and a size 8, and back up through the size 6, and the same on the other side. So it's 3 size 8, 1 size 6, 1 size 8, and back up through the size 6. And that's our first 2 linking beads added, and we've started our first point. Now I'm going to complete 4 points around here, making sure that they all link together the same as the first 4, and then I'll be back to show you how to add the last 4 points of the design. Now I've completed the second set of 4 points. You can see we've got quite a three-dimensional structure. We've got 4 points coming this way and 4 points coming that way. We're lacking, however, the points coming this way because we haven't attached a spike to the 4 beads that run around the equator. I'm going to start by adding a piece of wire into the first of those beads, just the same as before, and this time you'll probably find it easier to put a bit of a hook on the end of your wire so you can catch the end of it as it comes through, because otherwise it tends to poke out this way and it's awkward. Right, now I'm going to make a point exactly the same way as before from this bead, but this time the link beads are already in place on both sides. It's the link between these 2 points here and the link between these 2 points here. So it's from both sets of previous points we're borrowing 1 link bead. So it's going to be 3 size 8, and a size 6. Now we need to look for the right link bead on this side. I've come out of this side of that size 6 seed bead, so it's this link bead here I need. I need to go down through this bead. Because there's already 2 wires in, it can be a tight fit, but it will go. You can see the wires just poking out there if I wiggle it. Now you can get your fingers in, but I find it easier to grab it with the end of a pair of pliers. And then I go back up the size 6 seed bead. So I've made a link to this set of 4 points. Now I'm going to do the same on the other side. So it's 3 size 8 seed beads, a size 6 seed bead. Now the end of that wire there is where I made the curve to get it through the bead in the middle, and it made it a little bit kinky, so I've just trimmed it to make it smooth, and it should go through that link bead more easily, which it does. Now there's the end of the wire I want, so there's my pliers just to pull it through so I can get my fingers on it. So I've gone down through the link bead and up through the size 6 seed bead, and that's the 2 sides of my first point started. I'm now going to complete the weave. I'll be back to show you what it looks like. I've completed that spike, and as you can see it forms a bridge between the first set of 4 spikes and the second set of 4 spikes, and it sits across between the 2. Now I've got to repeat that spike another 3 times on 1, 2, 3 remaining size 6 seed beads, and that will complete the star. So here we have the completed star. I've added in 1, 2, 3, 4 spikes to join together the second cup of 4 spikes to the first cup of 4 spikes, and that gives us 12 points or 12 spikes on our star. You can just about see the cube at the middle, but it's only visible if you know it's there. I hope you'll give this a go. It's a great, impressive design to make yourself, and if you hang it from a little bit of transparent thread, it looks great suspended from the tree or from a twig in the window. Happy beading. Thank you for watching.